Thank you for staying with us. It's time now to take a look at stories making headlines on Nigerian newspapers, and I begin with the blueprint. The major story here says Tinubu crosses fourth legal hurdle towards 2023. Tinubu crosses fourth legal hurdle towards 2023. Court dismisses suit, declares Ihuoma meddlesome interloper. All right, you find all the details on the front page of the blueprint. We move now to the front page of this Nigerian newspaper, 2023. UK has no preferred candidate, says Envoy. The UK has no preferred candidate, says Envoy, will work with any presidential candidate that emerges. So that's what they are saying. We move now to the front page of the Nation newspaper. The major headline here says that cash withdrawal limit policy, senators expert knock CBN. Cash withdrawal limit policy, senators experts knock CBN. And Senate faults Apex Bank and talks about a debate for Tuesday next week. All right, all the details on the front page of the Nation newspaper. And on the front page of the Punch, towing the same line as the story on the front page of the Nation newspaper, it says cash withdrawal limits, Senate grills CBN chiefs tomorrow. POS operators get waiver to pay processing fees. Central Bank deputy governors to face NASA panel. Senate debates policy next week. All the details on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Kemi.
Leadership is next, and it's still on the reactions following the CBN latest cashless policy. Its big story there reads, politicians move against CBN cash withdrawal policy. This should make an interesting read. Politicians moving against the CBS cash withdrawal policy, according to the leadership. We check out First News next, still on the withdrawal limits as announced by the CBN. Senate may overturn new CBN policy. We'll see how that happens. Veronica had already spoken about a scheduled screening of CBN chiefs next week at the Senate. To Daily Trust now, cash withdrawal limit, businesses will collapse. This according to senators. We cannot go cashless in a hurry, says Senate President Ahmed Lawan. It will kill our businesses, say POS operators, and the CNPP coalition of political parties also backing the policy that has generated so much controversy. For the Daily Times, it's towing a different line. The paper is leading with a report on unaccounted service-wide vote funds. Unaccounted service-wide vote funds. Senate threatens to withhold 2023 budgetary allocations of more than 100 ministries, departments, and agencies. And that's also what News Direct is leading with, saying 100 MDAs ignoring an invitation, risk zero allocations for next year's budget. This is coming from the Senate. It's final paper this time now. News Direct saying 100 MDAs ignoring invitation, risk zero allocations for the budget of 2023. Veronica.
All right, let's look at the reactions coming from the new CBN policy with regards to making withdrawals. Just yesterday, we began the conversation that the CBN came out to say that over-the-counter withdrawals for individuals, the limit is 100,000, but for organization is 500,000, and any amount after above that will attract about 5% and 10% charges respectively. Then for ATMs, the limit is 20,000 naira, and means 100,000 naira you can withdraw. And then for POS is still the same amount, and then anything above that. And then for also checks, you cannot third-party checks is, I think, 50,000 naira, and anything above that for individuals is not eligible. And so the Senate has come out to react to this statement, because it was Philip Aduda, the Senate Minority Leader, that, raised the point of order at the floor of the Senate, bringing it to the attention of his colleagues at the Senate, saying that, look at what the CBN is saying, look at what the CBN is doing. And then the Senate President came out to say that, you know what, we cannot move into a cashless policy, because this is what is seeming that the CBN wants to bring about, the cashless policy, and that we can't move in a hurry like that. Recall yesterday we were talking about the fact that those in the rural areas, how do you capture them? How do you, involve them in all of these moves that you're making? Did you even consider them before making this decision?
Right, and well, the drama or the proceedings at the Senate on Wednesday appear interesting. The reports we saw go on to say that, in fact, some senators led by Philip Aduda were, urging the Senate President in their resolution to allow them argue for and against the policy. But the Senate President said that it would be better for them to suspend deliberation, arguments for and against, until after they have more information and after the screening of the new deputy CBN governors. It appears that what Senate President Lawan said appeared to have been in his own personal opinion, saying that right now, at this time, may not be the best time, as good as the policy may seem. We were speaking the other day on Wednesday during the news with an analyst who says even across the world, in more developed nations, that's the way to go. And for Nigeria to be coming on board at this time now, we're coming in late, but it's better late than never. But of course, that is against the opposition that we've been hearing against the policy from analysts, from economists, from users, from POS operators. I don't know whether the latest waiver, I don't know if the announcement of a waiver would assuage their fears. They still talk about going on to protest. Another interesting angle is the political parties now. On this side, they're saying no at this time now, but CNPP is saying yes for this policy now, especially with the issue of the constant clamor against money politics
and vote buying,
that this might just be the solution, especially for parties that for politicians that may not be as, will I say, wealthy,
financially buoyant, or have the war chest, as it is often said.
The war chest, as politics in Nigeria now.
You need a war chest.
You need an adequate amount of resources now to fuel your ambitions. So the back and forth, we may not hear about it, but another issue again might be, I said it yesterday, and maybe I should say it again, how much time do we have for education between now and January the 9th, and how much engagement did CBN have with all the stakeholders?
Perhaps when the Senate engages with them next week, Tuesday, we get a better insight. But then again, this level of awareness created with especially the e-Naira, how many persons are, making use of it? What are the challenges? What are the structures we have put in place to even ensure a smooth run, or we get into the issue or era of cashless policy smoothly without any challenge? Just yesterday, we were talking about the fact that you make transactions. It is either hanging or it is taking forever to be done. And then there are those who say that people carry out fraudulent activities where they tell you that they sent you funds, they made transfers. You are saying that I didn't receive any alert, and there's an argument back and forth. How are we checking all of those activities? In the first place, what are the measures you have put in place, as good as this is? You talk about in other countries, in the US, Europe, wherever this is going on, we are coming on board. But then before they began this process, it is certain that they put every measure in place. Everyone understands what it is the financial institution is coming up with, such that it carries everyone along. Now it seems you are going to cut off those persons who are in the rural areas, who believe in the issue of, I can only use cash to do business with you. Anything else outside of cash, you are not speaking my language. I'm not understanding anything you're saying. How are you making them understand that it is safer to come on board this move of cashless policy? What is the level of education these people have? Some places, you can count the number of banks in some places. So how do you want them to engage in the banks? How do you get them on board? POS operators are the ones who are thriving in those areas. So you are now telling them this is the limit they can go. How do you want them to thrive in their business? These are the issues, and these are the challenges.
Absolutely. And, well, this question was thrown at, the CBN. In the latest circular of the waiver for POS, they were said, when asked about, the impact of this policy on people in the rural areas, 90% of whom are said, to still, be operating. They can't cash. They use cash, as against the carry cash, yes, as against, the cashless policy drive of the government. And they said, what obtains in the urban areas will also obtain in the rural areas. A peg has been fixed, and everybody will have to, work with that. And then there's also the issue of, unbanked people. How many people can we truly say use banks? Statistics say that we have more people unbanked, more people who would rather keep their money elsewhere than people who use the banks. So, is this a defeatist policy? How is this enabling the system? And okay, maybe you can give it to CBN now, the issue of mutilating our nairas, as we see the way we use cash these days. Only the other day I was saying, okay, perhaps when the new naira notes come in, we can even have better notes that stand the test of time, because over time, and the people will stash cash at home that end up getting damaged. So I guess these are part of the reason or the rationale why CBN is doing what it's doing. And then you also mentioned, advanced countries. Another issue is technology. We see how technology is, operates over there.
They have deepened the use of technology.
They've deepened it,
but we are still backward, if I may use that word. It's still a challenge for us to get, this network to some areas, to reach out to those in the rural areas. What have we done with regards to that? Do we even have data? You talked about those who are unbanked. Do we have data of all of these persons? What are we using to drive this policy? What data because you need data to drive any policy to understand the challenges, the pros, the cons, and how to bridge the gap. If you don't have that data, you may not get the result you want. And that is what we have been seeing over time. And so we cannot continue a process and think we'll get a different result when we are still going in the same direction. It doesn't work that way. From my perspective, we need to look at the nitty-gritties to really ensure that we get the results we need at the end of the day.
Absolutely. It's good to carry everyone along. I mean, we can't say that enough. And for another chunk of people is, how does this translate to cheaper, prices of essential commodities?
Does he address inflation? Does he address the matter of the value of the naira?
Absolutely.
I mean, these are the issues that we are dealing with now, because some economists are saying that is not what we need at this time. This is not our problem.
They've labeled it as, diversionary, as in the government, has crucial answers to give in critical aspects of the economy. Everyone hopes that the Buhari administration will leave office in a strong and positive way, because the elections are upon us, but then we still have a few more weeks for the government.